African Americans in this country are the only groups, they have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them. Two value systems in the African American culture. Name two taboos in the African American cultural system. Name two traditions, by the way, in the African American cultural system. You have no culture. Nancy, you've been here, born here. Why would you be surprised if I say African Americans don't have a culture? What, twerking?
Hi guys, my name is Tiana and you're welcome to Tiana Reacts. So I came across this video where an African man boldly said that African Americans have no culture. And honestly, I was shocked. I was really shocked. If we are being real here, culture is not just where you come from. It's also what you've built. And Black Americans have built a culture that the whole world copies every single day. From the music, to the fashion, to the slang, to the arts, and so much more. So today we are going to break this down and react to what he said, and also to set the record straight, because this kind of ignorance cannot go unchecked. Well, before we move into that, please hit the subscribe button, share, and like. You can also drop your comments on the comment section. Thank you. Now we can dive into it.
African Americans in this country are the only groups, they have no culture. It depends on who you meet, where you meet them. Two value systems in the African American culture. Name two taboos in the African American cultural system. Name two traditions, by the way, in the African American cultural system. You have no culture. Nancy, you've been here, born here. Why would you be surprised if I say African Americans don't have a culture? What, twerking?
I've seen several videos from this interview this morning with Frank Zanu, and while seemingly educated and has some interesting points of view, is spewing lots of white supremacist ideas of blackness and colonialism. He particularly hones in on Black Americans and Haitians, and as you can imagine, I was all ears on both sides of this combo. What's worse is the women having the conversation with him didn't have the bandwidth or capacity to speak on these topics. And if there's one thing that really grinds my gears, is people who paint broad strokes and completely leave out the historical nuance and geopolitics that are crucial, especially when discussing anyone in the diaspora's history, culture, language, and current socioeconomic positioning in the modern world post-colonialism. To say that Black Americans have no culture boldly is to admit publicly that you're unqualified to continue your conversation. He is correct that there is no one singular unified Black American culture. That would be similar to you saying all of West Africa has a singular culture, because America is comparable to a continent size-wise. Black American culture is American culture, which is consumed globally and emulated globally, but it's become the dominant standardized culture for so long, you're not able to ascertain which aspects of that culture are Black. Furthermore, the bastardization of that culture that America exports. Prime example. We have to discuss the socialization of anti-Black sentiment throughout the diaspora when it comes to America, and that's seen from educators down to laymen, and this man appears to be no different. Because according to you, twerking is not a valid part of African American culture, even though it comes from your culture and our ancestors. So why is this dance considered traditional and cultural for you, but twerking for us couldn't be a part of African American culture? Black American culture is unique and has developed in America over the last 400 years. Black spirituality and worship in the Black church has been a central and vital institution in Black American life, acting as a hub for community, social justice, and spiritual support. Religion has provided a source of strength and hope in face of a systemic oppression, which is where a lot of our traditions stem from. Black American spirituality, Louisiana voodoo, and hoodoo, which developed from the Middle Passage and thrived during our time here on the plantation, is a direct result of our African origins coupled with our new existence here in America, which is no different than Santeria in Cuba, DRPR, voodoo in Haiti, Obia in Jamaica, or Candomblé in Brazil. If you're in America, there's a difference between a Black funeral, Black wedding, Black church, Black christening, Black palm, versus white versions of these. These are our tradition, and this is what we've developed here. Same things that you attribute to any other African or Latin American culture, these parts of our culture are just not exported to the world, so you don't think they exist. Soul food, which can be traced back to the culinary practices of enslaved Africans in the American South, blending African traditions with European techniques, inspiration from the natives, and ingredients and cooking methods available during slavery. It's unique to Black Americans, and it varies by region, same as food varies by any region anywhere in the world. Our value systems are family and community. We have collectivistic values placing a strong emphasis on family closeness, community bonding, and solidarity is a core value in most, if not all, Black American communities. Children are often raised to show great respect for their elders, seeking guidance and reverence as they age and as we mature. Art, which is the most exported and consumed and marketed part of our culture. From the Harlem Renaissance to today, Black Americans have made immense contributions to the arts. For example, literature, writers like Langston Hughes define the Harlem Renaissance. Visual art, our dances, our music, which have been consumed globally for the last century. Every popular genre of music we've created: blues, jazz, hip hop, praise and worship, gospel, rock and roll, and country are all Black American culture. Clothing and style are Black American culture, street style, hip hop style. And you say about our language, we have AAVE, we have Gullah Geechee, we have Creole. People speak differently in Texarkana, but people speak differently in South Carolina versus the North versus the Midwest. America is this roughly the size of Europe. Again, to say America and Black Americans have no culture is not only lazy, it's playing into the trope that we are the lost Africans, and also lends itself to they don't know where they come from. So many dangerous and misinformed tropes this man puts forward about both groups. And if there's one thing I hate, like I said, is people who make claims and leave out the history and geopolitics that are required to understand the talking points that we are currently discussing. Some aspects of Black Americans feeling like they're oppressed, so they stay oppressed. Maybe we can dive into those concepts and you can provide a well thought out thesis or provide to me your point of view. But if you're doing so from a flawed place to begin with, I can't respect anything you say. Black Americans have no culture. Haitians don't speak a language, and Haitians are failing because Africans never knew or saw governance. Those 3 points are completely wrong.
If you've ever heard the phrase that Black Americans do not have culture, or you've ever said that Black Americans do not have culture, you are misinformed. 1, 2, you're a liar. 3, your perception of things is probably off. Because every time I see people say this, it's usually in juxtaposition to other places like that are not America. And I'll be the first to tell you that, yeah, in juxtaposition to these other places that culture has existed in for several hundred, if not thousands of years, yeah, I would imagine that other places exude a particular culture. But you have to also understand that that is wherever it is, whether it's Europe, the Middle East, Africa, even the Caribbean, down here in the Americas. These are old world cultures or old world based cultures with old world beliefs and value systems. You cannot compare America, that is a newer country, to these old world countries with their old world cultures and value systems. We have an entirely different thing here. The United States as a whole is a country, is a big landmass, first off. So Black culture looks different by region of the country. And I think that's the dissonance that people have with it. It's not centralized. I'm from New Orleans. Black culture in New Orleans looks different than Black culture in Mississippi. And that looks way different than culture in Atlanta or in Texas or in LA or California rather. And that looks a world away different than Black culture in New York. Are there things that connect us regardless of what region we're from? Yes, of course. But to say that Black culture does not exist in this country, that's just you don't know enough, or you don't care, or you are participating in white supremacy. I mean, it's using one of those 3. Because Black culture is such a wide and colorful array of things that people try to minimize it to just like, oh, this rap and hip hop thing. And it's not it.
I watched the viral clip of that bald-headed African dude that was talking to that Haitian lady on his podcast about how Black Americans, we're the only people that don't have a culture, that don't have any value systems, any traditions, any taboos, blah, blah, blah. And I've watched some different takes on this, but I actually have a little bit of a different take. Okay, so my microphone just went out. But anyways, I have a little bit of a different take because listening to that clip made me realize something about the way that Africans view culture and traditions when it comes to Black people. So the reason why Africans say stuff like Black Americans don't have culture, we don't know who we are, we don't know where we come from, is because our culture in America doesn't center Africa. So what I mean by that is, if you look at like the Caribbean and South America, a lot of their culture and traditions mimic cultures or mimic the things that are done culturally in Africa, in different parts of Africa. So they've taken a lot of that African tradition and incorporated it into their cultures down in the Caribbean and in South America. So that's why they're not going to tell them that they don't know who they are, they don't know where they came from, they're lost. They're not going to say that to them because their culture, a lot of their culture resembles that different cultures in Africa. Whereas in America, as Black Americans, most of our culture, especially not mainstream culture, does not resemble anything African. Our culture does not center Africa. I don't think that Africans can really wrap their head around the idea of a group of Black people who just came up, who came up with their own culture that's based off of their own experience and that has absolutely nothing to do with anywhere on the continent of Africa. So in their eyes, it's like, you guys must be lost because you don't center Africa in your culture. You don't center Africa in the things that you do. Nothing that you do resembles African, anything in Africa. Y'all don't resemble. We can't draw any parallels between what you guys are doing in America into Africa. I mean, even if we're just talking about lifestyles, like when you look at Haiti and Nigeria, you're not going to really see too much difference between a city in Haiti and a city in Nigeria. It's still full of scrap metal housing made out of shipping containers. There's extreme poverty in both of those areas, and they really kind of mirror each other in a lot of ways. And even in Jamaica, like certain parts of Jamaica could look similar to somewhere in Ghana or somewhere. So I feel like they have more of like that connection. Like, so I really feel like Africans look at Caribbeans and they see a lot of themselves in the lifestyles of the people there, but they don't see the reflection of themselves in us. And I think that they look at that as like somehow we are lost or we don't have any pride, or because we don't feel connected to Africa. So if we're Black and we don't feel connected to Africa, that means that there's something wrong with us, and that means that we're lost. They say that Black Americans have main character syndrome and we're self-centered, but yet the way that they view culture and the reason why they tell us that we don't know who we are, we don't have a culture, or we don't have traditions, or we don't, we're just lost, is because our culture doesn't resemble theirs. Our culture doesn't center Africa, but somehow we're the main character. But aside from all of that, I don't feel like anybody has the right to tell somebody else that they don't have a culture. You don't have a right to speak on another group of people's lifestyle. Like you just, and the lady that he was sitting across from, honestly, I just don't think that her elevator goes to the top floor. I don't think that she has the mental bandwidth to engage in a conversation like that. But I feel like a lot of times they pick people like that specifically that they know won't really have no pushback, that don't have the mental capacity to go back and forth with them and actually educate them. Because apparently obviously she did not. She just sat there looking like boo-boo the fool and had no rebuttals at all. So, but anyways, that's my take.
Well, guys, all I have to say about this is culture is not up for debate. At the end of the day, culture is not up for debate. Black Americans created something so powerful, so influential, that the whole world copies even without giving credit. And for someone to dismiss that is beyond disrespectful. But hey, I want to hear from you. What do you think? What do you think about this whole situation? Drop your thoughts in the comment section and let's educate anyone who is still confused. If you've made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video. Don't forget to like, comment and subscribe because I've got so much more content coming your way. Until next time, stay blessed, stay proud, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.